Ken is such a bad guy. Doing whatever he wants behind his wife's back. What are you talking about, Rachel? Don't you have a husband too? Well, my wife and your husband are fools, so they'll never find out. You're absolutely right. Let's have some fun today. Hurry up, Ken. On the day of the family dinner. I sighed as I looked at my phone. Next to me were my brother Scott and another family member, Ollie, both of whom looked disappointed. We're being called fools. What should we do? Should we beat them up right now? That's pretty extreme. Well, I feel the same, but just beating them up is too mild. We need to crush them so badly they can never recover. Yes, you're right. That's what we prepared for. Shall we get started? Yes, let's show them. We slowly stood up, determined. Thinking they would never get caught. Not only will they get caught, but we know everything. Just you wait, Ken. You'll definitely regret this. Hours later, my husband and brother's wife arrived at the dinner venue, my in-laws' house. They even carefully staggered their arrival times. I muttered to myself, not taking my eyes off them. Such tricks won't work. You'll have to face the consequences of betrayal. By the way, my brother and his wife are attending today's dinner because I asked my in-laws. Since my in-laws are also friends with my brother, they gladly agreed. Of course, I made such a request to lure my sister-in-law out, marking the beginning of my revenge. So, is everything settled? I'm a bit tired. Unaware of the sarcasm I threw his way, my husband frowned and headed toward the living room. I grabbed his shoulder and looked up at him. Wait a minute. I have something to show you. What? I'm tired. Show me later. But I want you to see it now. Here. My brother also called out to his wife. Rachel, come here, I have something too. What we handed over were divorce papers. My brother and I had already signed our respective documents. Naturally, my husband and Rachel looked bewildered, like they had been hit with a ton of bricks. Huh? Why? They stood frozen, unable to comprehend. Hey, Madeline. What's the meaning of these divorce papers all of a sudden? Explain yourself. Oh, you should know, shouldn't you? You must be aware of what you've done. What? Don't mess with me. Explain now. My husband, with his short fuse, was about to explode. His face grew red, becoming more and more furious. Get angrier. Go ahead, shout and lose control. The angrier he gets, the more entertaining this revenge will be. Shall I explain? But first, answer my question. You two were late to dinner, right? What were you doing and where? I smiled confidently, questioning my husband and Rachel. We were working. That's right. We were both busy with work. Rachel answered, her face twitching for a split second. Work, huh? Really? I stared at my husband and Rachel. I thought I'd give them a bit of mercy. This was their last chance to come clean. Yes, work. Unlike you idle people, I'm busy. My husband missed his last chance. Not only did he lie, but he insulted me and my brother. All right. If that's how you want to play it, we won't hold back. If you're so sure, show us the proof. That's right, Rachel. Prove where you were and what you were doing. My brother and I cornered them. My husband took a step back. Rachel's gaze wandered into the sky, desperately trying to evade. There's no proof. Yeah, exactly. Work is work. My husband desperately tried to talk his way out, spitting as he spoke. But to us, who knew the truth, it was just laughable. Here comes the first blow. I silently pulled out my phone, operated it, and held it out to them so they could see the screen. As I confirmed their eyes were on the screen, I turned up the volume to the maximum. Oh, Ken, you're such a bad boy. What are you saying, Rachel? The phone mercilessly played a video of them entangled with each other. What? My husband shouted in panic, trying to drown out the sound. Unfortunately for him, The volume was at its highest, so it was impossible. Next, my husband reached out to grab the phone, but my brother pinned him down before he could. I narrated their embarrassing scene in front of the family with a sarcastic tone. "Come on, let's have fun today. Hurry up, Ken. Rachel, I'm coming." I mimicked their sickly sweet voices, the gestures of my husband hugging my brother's wife, and her fawning expressions. At some point, the family members had surrounded me. The relatives, having seen the video, were in an uproar, glaring at my husband and Rachel. It seemed like a good time to provide an explanation. "Everyone, I apologize for shocking you. This video is inappropriate for this setting, but I have a reason for showing it to you." Hearing my explanation, the noisy relatives fell silent as if cold water had been poured over them. I looked around and continued. "The man in this video is my husband, Ken. And the woman is my brother's wife, Rachel." The place was again in an uproar. What's going on?" Voices flew, and piercing glares were directed at my husband and Rachel. Among them, the most furious were my in-laws. Their bodies shook with anger, and then they exploded. "Ken, what have you done?" The roar echoed through the room. Their faces were filled with pure rage. In contrast, my husband's face twitched, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. He was probably trying to come up with an excuse. Before he could start with his pathetic excuses, I added, "Everyone, Ken and Rachel were late to dinner. They claimed they were late because of work, but that's a complete lie. They were having fun together just moments ago." "Ken, you bastard!" my father-in-law shouted, causing my husband to jolt as if electrocuted. His mouth, which had been moving without sound, clamped shut. They were meeting in secret at our house. I watched their affair through the pet camera I had set up in our living room. They were getting cozy at our place. My husband's complexion turned pale. We caught them in the act. For a normal person, it would be unbearably shameful. But my husband's sense of shame was not normal. "What? You installed a pet camera? That's spying. Do you think you can get away with that?" "Yeah. Spying is so sneaky." The cheating couple had the nerve to complain. In a way, they were a perfect match. My in-laws and the rest of the family looked at my husband and Rachel with astonishment. "Ken, what are you talking about? You're the one who cheated. Before blaming Madeline, you should reflect on your actions." "That's right. Stop making ridiculous excuses." The relatives nodded in agreement with my in-laws. Everyone but my husband and Rachel had a normal sense of decency. Unable to bear the frozen stares, my husband slowly looked down at the floor. We finally cornered him. I glanced at my brother. Our revenge wouldn't end here. We would drag them down to the depths of hell, so they could never climb back up. My brother nodded slowly, understanding my gaze. Now, the real payback begins. My brother shot a freezing glare at Rachel before speaking. I was the first to notice their affair. Rachel started going on sudden business trips. At first, it was once a week, then twice, 3 times. It was obviously strange. Rachel's job was in administration. She mostly worked indoors and rarely traveled. She must have thought she could get away with a convenient lie. Rachel's behavior changed around that time. Even at home, she was always smiling at her phone. She took her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom, never letting it out of her sight. My husband was the same. At first, I convinced myself it was just work. But doubts spread like ink in water, slowly but surely. And when I found the decisive evidence, I felt both disappointment and anger. Betrayal by someone you trust tears your heart apart. I investigated a little. The shocking truth was revealed. Rachel was cheating on me. My brother looked at his wife with a mixture of despair and anger. Rachel remained expressionless, giving no clue as to what she was thinking. And her affair partner was my brother-in-law. Hearing it from my brother again ignited my anger. Infidelity is unforgivable, but the fact that it was with my sister-in-law made it even worse. The closer the person, the deeper the wound for both my brother and me. I reported it to my sister immediately. She was hurt and saddened but decided to move forward. We decided to gather evidence without Rachel noticing. First, we installed a pet camera in our living room. We already had a pet camera for Ollie, so it was easy. The pet camera, meant to watch over our beloved Ollie, ended up recording their secret meetings. Unaware, Ollie looked up at me with innocent eyes. I was grateful for Ollie. Even in the worst situations, Ollie helped me stay sane. Ollie would never betray me and always stayed by my side. Trust is crucial in life. My husband, who destroyed that trust, was the lowest of the low. In front of my in-laws and relatives, I would deliver the final blow to my pale-faced husband. You're the worst. I can't be with you anymore. I want a divorce. Me too. After such a horrible betrayal, I can't continue this marriage. I want a divorce, Rachel. For a moment, my husband and Rachel flinched. But then, they sneered defiantly. A divorce? Perfect. I was planning to ask for a divorce anyway. Yeah, let's get divorced already. They exchanged glances and smirked. Once we're divorced, we can get remarried, right, Rachel? That's right, Ken. For a moment, I felt like my brain was flashing empty. This can't be happening. They're truly an idiotic couple. They didn't care about hurting us with their affair. All they cared about was satisfying their own desires and getting married. Hey! Before I could unleash my anger, my father-in-law's voice thundered through the room. You idiots! He was too furious to speak further. He clenched his fists, glaring at my husband with a look that could kill. How dare you! Betraying your partners, hurting them, and then planning to remarry so quickly. How twisted can you be? My mother-in-law, barely keeping her composure, tried to reason with them. Even if you say that, I don't love Madeline anymore. It can't be helped. I feel the same. I have no complaints about Scott, but Ken is more exciting. Even though no one asked, they eagerly explained their reasons for cheating. I have no issues with Madeline either. But now that I've known Rachel, I can't go back to Madeline. My husband looked at Rachel with a passionate gaze. Rachel puckered her lips sensually, meeting his gaze. My husband spoke with shining eyes, not realizing how terrible he sounded. He spoke like a child talking about his favorite game, selfishness evident in every word. Ken responds to my feelings with such passion. Scott is a bit too bland, not enough for me. Rachel was known for her love of good-looking men. My brother had cool eyes and a refreshing appearance. My husband had a muscular build and was tall, handsome. Rachel had clearly chosen them based on their looks. It seemed my husband and Rachel had acted on their instincts, selfishly leading to the affair. Life needs excitement. Just knowing there's someone I want to see makes my day shine. I can't stand a boring, monotonous life. I was speechless, unable to form words. I felt like my brain circuits were about to short-circuit. I couldn't take any more of their foolishness. Are you kidding me? How much do you plan to insult us? It wasn't just me who felt this way. My in-laws were also shaking, struggling to control their anger. At that moment, my father-in-law suddenly lunged at my husband. He tackled him like a rugby player, throwing him to the ground. My husband, though muscular and athletic, was no match for my father-in-law, a black belt. The victory went to my father-in-law. With a satisfying thud, my husband landed on his rear, bewildered. What just happened? He muttered, rubbing his backside as he struggled to his feet. His eyes were filled with anger as he glared at my father-in-law. What the hell, old man? I could have been seriously hurt. You're too damn stupid. You betrayed someone important to you. That's not something a human should do. My father-in-law declared with the force of a guillotine. But my husband, blinded by rage, didn't listen. He stomped his feet like a spoiled child. I don't want a boring life like you and Mom. Dad, with no hobbies, just work. And you've hit a dead end in your career. Isn't it dull? What's the point of living like that? That was too much. My father-in-law worked diligently to support his family. His efforts, though unglamorous, were commendable. It was unforgivable. My husband then turned his venom on my mother-in-law. And Mom, you're just a housewife with nothing to do but chores. You're gonna grow old and die like that. It's too dull. Sure, my mother-in-law was a homemaker, but she wasn't dull. Thanks to her, my husband had a carefree childhood. He had forgotten his parents' sacrifices. Selfish people don't realize the support they get from others. My mother-in-law looked at my husband with deep hurt, as if seeing a monster. Unaware of her pain, my husband continued. I don't want to end up like you too. I'm gonna live an exciting life with Rachel, he declared, grabbing Rachel's hand. She squeezed his hand in return. My in-laws were speechless, deeply wounded by my husband's words. I took a deep breath. I had to protect my in-laws. I couldn't let them be insulted any longer. That's awful. Your parents have always loved you. How can you hurt them like this? You're less than human. Apologize to them. Huh? Why should I apologize? I'm just living my life. I don't need boring people like you around. My husband spat his words, pulling Rachel towards the door. As they headed for the entrance, I cursed them. Living so selfishly, you'll regret it someday. They left without a reply, the door slamming loudly behind them. The loud bang snapped my father-in-law out of his daze. Ken, wait. You can't just run away. Take responsibility for what you've done. He chased after them, and the relatives followed, but it was too late. My husband and Rachel had disappeared into the city. A few minutes later, my father-in-law and the relatives returned, out of breath. My father-in-law approached my brother and me and said, I'm so sorry. My foolish son hurt you and then ran away. He's the worst. He apologized repeatedly. Please. You're hurting just as much as we are. I know you worked hard to support your family. Ken's words were undeserved. Tears in his eyes. I'm truly sorry, Madeline. My mother-in-law's voice trembled. She was holding back tears. We must have raised him wrong. How did he become so heartless? I can't see him as my son anymore. Tears started to fall from her eyes, and she tried to stifle her sobs. Despite being called dull and boring, their closeness was beautiful. Their love and trust were incomparable to fleeting pleasures. We have to move on without him. He's no longer our son. Yes. My mother-in-law nodded slowly. Madeline, please let me apologize again. I'm sorry. Please, I'm fine. That's right. This isn't over. They'll face the consequences. We've already set things in motion. My brother and I exchanged determined looks. Ken and Rachel probably thought they'd won. But fleeting pleasure can't beat deep trust and love. They were just dancing in our hands. Let them enjoy their brief happiness. Later, my brother and I finalized our divorces through lawyers. A few days later, Ken called. I ignored it at first, but he was persistent. Hey, pick up already. His condescending tone irritated me as usual. There was a hint of panic in Ken's voice. What do you want? His tone was as arrogant as ever. But there was a hint of panic. Do you know why men are following me? It's weird. Wherever I go, they're there. Do you know anything? I knew exactly why. Things were going according to plan. Our revenge's climax was about to begin. Oh, I know. Stop it. You're the one who's been tailing me with detectives, right? You said you wanted a divorce, so stop following me. I'm not getting back with you. His arrogance was absurd. I don't understand at all. I had no intention of reconciling. I know, but I'm not behind it. Those men following you are Rachel's other lovers. What? I heard Ken gasp on the other end of the line. My punch had landed deeply. It seems Rachel had a lot of lovers. More than you can count on one hand. Ken seemed to be in shock, frozen. The second punch must have felt like a body blow. I aimed for the critical spot like a predator closing in on its prey, slowly delivering the final blow. Rachel was cheating on me? My brother and I already knew this. During the investigation into Ken and Rachel's affair, we discovered Rachel was involved with multiple men. It's not just that she had many partners. Ken's mental state must be in shambles, but I didn't let up. There's more. Rachel pretended to be single and intentionally got involved with several men to deceive them. Ken was speechless on the other end of the line. He was probably wide-eyed and frozen. My brother and I had already contacted all of Rachel's lovers. We had exposed the truth to them. That Rachel was married and that they were all being deceived. This happened before the family dinner. On the day of the gathering, my brother and I were fully prepared. We knew Rachel had been pretending to be single and had multiple partners. The only one unaware was Ken. Ken's short temper seemed to ignite. That bitch Rachel. She deceived me. She said she loved me, but it was all a lie. His sudden yell made me pull the phone away from my ear. Judging by the volume, Ken was incredibly angry. But did he have the right to blame Rachel? What position did he think he was in? You deceived my brother and me, didn't you? You also deceived and hurt my in-laws. This is your karma. People who betray others' trust end up being betrayed themselves. What goes around comes around. You can't get away with everything. He should feel the pain of being betrayed by someone he trusted. Wait a minute. What? I have nothing more to say. I just realized something. Why are Rachel's lovers after me? Ken's dense brain finally caught on to something important. And this was the key point of our plan. Those men are Rachel's lovers, right? So they should be after Rachel, not me. Why are they targeting me? For Ken, that was quite insightful. Exactly. Rachel's lovers should be after her for revenge. There was one more thing to reveal. This would be the final and biggest attack in our revenge. You're pretty sharp for once. I'll give you that. Come on, tell me what's going on. There was panic in Ken's voice. Rachel used your name to take out loans. What? Loans? She couldn't do that without my permission. I never signed anything. Of course, Rachel used your name without your consent. She forged the documents. Forgery? What? Ken's voice was almost a scream. At that moment, I regretted not talking to him face to face. I would have loved to see his pale, dumbfounded face. Rachel got involved with multiple men to scam them out of money. You were just one of her targets. Her real favorite wasn't you, it was a bartender. She found him more handsome and exciting. I layered on the sarcasm as I delivered the shocking truth. A bartender! I heard Ken's defeated murmur. She spent a lot of money on that guy. She was visiting him almost every day. From our investigation, my brother and I found that Rachel had been spending the money she got from her lovers, including Ken, on a bartender. Rachel's frequent visits to the bar were well known in that community. She has good instincts, I'll give her that. She sensed her cover was blown and ran. She cut off all contact with her lovers. That's why Ken was being chased by Rachel's lovers. They were desperate to get their money back. So, I'm being chased because I'm her cosigner? Exactly. Rachel's debt is quite substantial, so good luck with that. You've got to be kidding me. Why should I clean up her mess? I have nothing to do with her debt. Besides, I'm broke. I spent a lot of money on Rachel. Of course, I knew that. Rachel approached him for his money from the start. If only he had realized the stupidity of his actions while ranting about excitement and love. In the end, the pursuit of temporary pleasure and excitement led to ruin. Hey, Madeline! Please, I don't have any money. We used to be close, right? Help me out. What are you talking about? That's a joke. We got divorced because you cheated, remember? I'm nothing to you now. Don't say that, come on. This idiot doesn't understand how the world works. I guess I'll have to spell it out for him. What I can't forgive more than your cheating is how you deceived and disrespected my in-laws. They raised you with so much love. You forgot that and hurt them, calling them boring and dull. Do you know how much they suffered? My brother and I will never forgive you. Remembering that moment, my anger flared up. I can't forget the hurt expressions on my in-laws' faces. You're the worst kind of person, betraying the trust and love of others. No, you're worse than a beast. Well, Ken was at a loss for words, confronted with the truth. Here comes the final blow. I had saved my most cutting words for this moment. Isn't this great? Now you can live that exciting life you wanted. A normal life wouldn't involve being buried in debt and chased around. Just what you wished for, right? This isn't the kind of excitement I wanted. I didn't want debt. I would have preferred a normal life. Ken muttered pitifully, but I hung up on him without caring. Finally, my brother and I had completed our revenge. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, my vision clearing. Ken would no longer mess with my life. It was time for him to face the consequences of his actions. Later, I heard that Ken shamelessly sought help from my in-laws and other relatives. But, of course, no one helped him. It was only natural after seeing his true colors at that dinner. He betrayed and hurt his own parents and chased his desires selfishly. Ken spent his days being chased by his ex-lovers, living in fear. Eventually, they tracked him down at his workplace and caused a scene. As a result, Ken became ostracized at work. Unable to focus on his job. His mental health deteriorated and he had to quit. Unable to repay his debts. He remained relentlessly pursued by his ex-lovers. In the end, Ken fled from town. Still trying to escape his pursuers. Why do I know all this? Because I didn't block his contact information. Ken sent me countless messages begging for help. I have no intention of helping him, but left his messages unblocked to witness his downfall. I'll enjoy watching him writhe in his own personal hell. Meanwhile, Rachel is now destitute and in debt. She quit her job long ago and has no income. With no savings, she's completely broke. Exposed for who she really is, she can no longer scam her ex-lovers. Despite having no income, she continued to visit the bar. This led to her debt snowballing out of control. She lived by her desires and ended up this way. Desperate, Rachel shamelessly begged my brother for help. But he, rightly, turned her away, citing karma. Naturally, we're not here to save those who betrayed us. They have to deal with the consequences of their actions themselves. My brother and I moved into a new place together. Our wounds have finally begun to heal, and we're living peacefully now. And by my side is always Ollie. Ollie, thank you for always being here. As long as I have you, I'm fine. I'm done with marriage. Ollie responded.